Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahansa Niti Namine, Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahansa Namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prastayate. So before speaking on the glories of Lord Ram, Lord Ramachandra, first I offer my respectful obeisances of the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, whose very dear Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. Panchakalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhuva evacha, patitanan pavenbhyo, vaishnavbhyo namo namaha. And I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and full of compassion upon them. Haribol, namaste. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak a little on the glories of Lord Ramachandra and to participate in this wonderful congregational kirtan program that seems to happen with great regularity on every appearance day or celebration day. So it's a wonderful service that you're doing, and it's a great pleasure to be able to participate. So thank you very much. And so anyway, so today is Lord Ramachandra's appearance day. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, text 8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadaskritam dhamma samstapanathaya sambhavani yuge yuge. So to deliver the pious, so paritranaya sadhunam, sadhu is the saintly persons, the devotees. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, vinashaya cha daskritam, so the miscreants are the daskritams. So to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, Dhamma samsthapana, so Dhamma, principles of religion. I do appear, millennium after millennium. I myself appear millennium after millennium. Sambhavani yuge yuge, so yuga after yuga. So this is the reason for Krishna's appearance in both himself personally and in his incarnations, such as Lord Ramachandra. So he appears to protect the devotees, deliver the devotees, to reveal his wonderful transcendental pastimes before us, so that we, the lost souls wandering around in this material world without a clue what we're doing, with no understanding of what the goal of life is, and with attachment to all kinds of material desires and this false material world, this temporary false material world. We're thinking it's everything, but it's temporary and false. And Lord Krishna, and in this instance Lord Ramachandra, appears and displays his wonderful transcendental pastimes. And Lord Ramachandra's wonderful pastimes are glorified throughout India and throughout Asia, as Hinduism was spread throughout much of Asia, with the remnants still strong in places like Bali, where the Ramayana is performed every night with puppets, or in Indonesia and Thailand. So this wonderful Lord Ramachandra's pastimes are all attractive and attract the fallen living entities back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna, in this instance back to Lord Ramachandra. So Lord Ramachandra, you know, he was loved so much by all his devotees. And so actually Rama means he who gives pleasure. And so Lord Rama, he gives pleasure to all the living entities. You know, he gives pleasure to all the devotees. The devotees love to read the Ramayana. Like throughout India before the advent of Bollywood and TV and so on, in all the villages, the villagers would gather at night and they would hear the stories of the Ramayana and also the Mahabharata. And they would, you know, do wonderful plays, the different pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. I remember some years ago I saw a play about the pastimes of Lord Rama, and it was after Ravana stole Sita Devi and took her away in his chariot, he was attacked by Jatayu, who is the nephew of Garuda. And Jatayu was quite old, and he had approached Lord Ramachandra and had wanted to render service to him. At first, Lord Ramachandra had been a bit suspicious. Who is this? Who is this creature? But then he explained that he was Garuda's nephew and that he wanted to render service to Lord Rama. And so anyway, Jatayu, he was sleeping whilst Ravana was abducting Sita, and the incident of Marichi calling out, taking on the form of a golden deer and attracting Sita Devi, who insisted that Lord Rama go and get this wonderful golden deer for her. And so Lord Rama went off, and then as the deer kept going further away, Lord Rama realized it was a demon, became sure it was a demon, and shot his arrow and killed him. But as he died, Marichi called out to Sita Devi and called out for Lakshman to come and save him. And actually Marichi had been sent by Ravana, but Marichi didn't really want to do Ravana's bidding, but he had no choice but to do it. He had to do it. And so he said, well, if I have to die, let me die at the hands of Lord Ramachandra. And that's how much Lord Rama was loved. So even, so Marichi got his desire. He was killed by the hands of Lord Rama. And but anyway, so Lakshman, of course, left. Sita Devi berated him, why won't you leave? Lord Rama had instructed Lakshman, don't leave Sita Devi. She must, remain and protect her no matter what. But then once Sita Devi heard the cries of Marichi as he died for Lakshman to come and help, she then, mercilessly berated Lakshman and even accused him of wanting to take her from Lord Rama. And so Lakshman felt that he had to try and go and see what was going on. For doing so, he drew a circle in which Sita Devi would be protected. But then Ravana appeared and disguised as a mendicant, and Sita Devi, of course, served the mendicant, leaving the circle. And so she was abducted by the evil Ravana. So anyway, so as Ravana was leaving, Jatayu woke from his sleep and then attacked Ravana. And but unfortunately, Jatayu would bite off his arms, but then a new arm would grow. And, so anyway, in the end, Jatayu was killed by Ravana. But he managed to remain alive until the point where Lord Rama came to him, and then Jatayu was able to explain to Lord Rama what had happened, that Sita Devi had been abducted by Ravana. And this, of course, then gave rise to the subsequent events as narrated in the Narayana by the great great sage Valmiki. But anyway, the point I was going to make, or that I was making, is that some years ago I saw a wonderful play about Jatayu and how he had tried to protect Sita Devi. And so anyway, this play, I remember watching it and I was like crying because it's so wonderful, such a wonderful pastime. Jatayu, his love for Lord Rama and his desire to serve him. And the mood of service is one of the main sort of threads or key points of Lord Rama's pastimes. Lord Rama is there's three relationships with Lord Rama that sort of are the ideal of service, and of course there is Jatayu, as I just described, but there is Hanuman. He's like the perfect servant of Lord Rama, carrying out his every desire and wanting to serve him, and it's in such a loving mood as the servant of Lord Ramachandra. Then of course there is Sita Devi, who serves her husband, Lord Ramachandra, so she serves him in the mood of his lover, his consort. And then there is Lakshman, Lord Rama's younger brother, who served Lord Rama as his friend and brother. And so Lakshman from birth was always wanting to be with Lord Rama, was always with him, and even voluntarily going into the forest when Lord Rama was banished due to the evil designs of Kaikeyi, who was convinced by Maya Devi to have her own son, Bharata, become the king. And this Bharata was away at the time, so he was unable to stop his mother from doing this. So anyway, his mother, through womanly wiles, was able to get Dasharatha to, he had promised her 2 boons, and she called upon these boons and insisted that he honored these boons. And the first boon she wanted was that her son Bharata be the king. And she's thinking that Bharata would like this, how mistaken she was. And then secondly, that Lord Ramachandra be banished to the forest. And so on Lord Ramachandra being banished to the forest, Lakshman was immediately going with Lord Rama. He could not leave Lord Rama. So this mood of service. And of course, Srimati Sita Devi also voluntarily accepted the austerity of going to the forest for 14 years. So this is the mood of service to Lord Ramachandra. So Krishna appears to protect the devotees and to demonstrate his wonderful pastimes to attract us back to Krishna. And he annihilates the miscreants. And this was very much throughout Lord Ramachandra's appearance in this world, that he was annihilating miscreants, while simultaneously protecting the devotees. So his spiritual master Vishvamitra, approached Dasharatha and requested to have Rama and Lakshman come and serve him. And he wanted them to kill various Rakshasas, man-eating demons, who were disturbing the sages in the forest. And Vishvamitra taught Lord Ramachandra all kinds of archery skills and how to use various weapons. And when Lord Ramachandra was banished to the forest, he very much took it upon himself as his duty to protect the sages and sadhus who were living in the forest. And of course he annihilated Ravana. the 10-headed demon. And this was actually one of the purposes of his appearance, was that the demigods had, because Ravana was trying to build himself, he's trying to gain entrance into heaven, into the heavenly planets by mechanical means. And he was trying to build the stairway to heaven. And, of course, there's the Led Zeppelin song, Stairway to Heaven. But here on Oahu, by the H3 freeway, there is a stairway that goes up the side of the Pali Mountains. It's like super steep, and it just goes up and up and up and into the clouds. And this this stairway is called Stairway to Heaven. And so Ravana tried to build a similar stairway. I'm not quite sure how the technology was going to work. Anyway, he was going to build a stairway to heaven, and so the demigods, of course, were very concerned about this, and they prayed for Vishnu to appear to kill Ravana, and so this is one of the purposes of Lord Ramachandra's appearance, and of course the whole Ramayana is about leading up. Very similar in a sense to the Mahabharata, which is all about a similar kind of pastime with banishment to the forest and then leading up to the Battle of Kurukshetra, which is like the climax. So the Ramayana is about Lord Ramachandra and his being banished to the forest, and then leading up to the climactic struggle with Ravana, where Ravana is killed. And of course, we should always we can appreciate that Ravana and also one of his brothers, Kumbhakana, were Jaya and Vijaya. So the Lord Krishna likes, there are no demons in the spiritual world. There, like in Goloka Vrindavan, there is no Kamsa. There is a sense that Srila Sanatana Goswami describes. There is a sense that there is a Kamsa, that Kamsa is there, but there is no actual Kamsa, because the mood of fear, concern for Krishna, that he'll be harmed by Kamsa, or that Kamsa will send demons, and so then the devotees take shelter of Krishna. This is like a loving exchange, taking shelter of Krishna. So, but there is no actual Kamsa in the spiritual world, and there are no demons in the spiritual world. And so Krishna likes to, fight with demons. And so he has to come to this material world to fight with demons. And so anyway, he sent his Jaya and Vijaya, the doorkeepers who had offended the 4 Kumaras. They were sent to the material world for either 3 or 7 lifetimes, according to which version. But anyway, and in each time they were killed by Krishna. And so Ravana and Kumbhakana are Jaya and Vijaya. So even though these are great demons, actually they're part of Krishna's pastimes. So, Krishna says to re-establish the principles of religion, Dhamma samstapana. So, this is one of the reasons for Krishna's appearance. And as Lord Ramachandra, Lord Rama is like the personification of Dhamma. He was his ruling over the kingdom was known as Rama Raja, which means that the ideal king. Rama was the ideal king. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says in Canto 9, Chapter 10, Text 51, Lord Ramachandra became the king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga, the golden age. Everyone was religious and completely happy. And, this is further described in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 9th canto, how wonderful things were And Lord Rama, he embodied the ideal of service. The sacrifice of freedom and the sacrifice of one's own happiness for the sake of duty. So Lord Ramachandra, he's banished to the forest due to the evil design of his stepmother, but he accepts it. He accepts it as his duty. His father Dasharatha had made a vow to fulfill the boons of his wife Kaikeyi, and so when she called upon it, these boons, and one of which, as I said, was the banishment of Lord Rama to the forest, Lord Rama immediately accepted it. He immediately accepted the sacrifice of going to the forest for 14 years. The Bhagavatam says that even though Lord Rama's feet were so soft that they couldn't bear the touch of Sita's hands, still he went to the forest where there is sharp rocks. And he did this out of the sense of duty, dharma. Like dharma means duty or obligation, responsibility. This is one of the meanings. And so Lord Ramachandra, is the embodiment of this ideal of service, of sacrifice for the sake of duty. And, another example of this was his, another example. Oh, well, anyway, I'll remember it later. But anyway, so his ideal of service. And so we can learn from this, that life requires struggle. It's not like, so Lord Ramachandra is demonstrating in his personal pastimes that there was struggle and sacrifice. And, so we can learn from this. He gave up the kingdom to serve his father's vow. Oh, he gave up Sita for the sake of his duty for the people. So after he had killed Ravana and rescued Mother Sita, and then they went back to the kingdom of Ayodhya, flying in a celestial airplane, which is actually the the Festival of Lights, which I'm just forgetting what the word for that is. Anyway, so the triumph of good over evil as Lord Ramachandra returns and reclaims his kingdom. And of course, Bharata, his beloved brother, had lived just as Rama had lived in the forest. Even though he was the king, he ruled for the sake of Lord Rama. He had Lord Rama's sandals on the throne. And so before making any kind of decision, Bharata would would look to the sandals of Lord Ramachandra on the throne before making any decision. And so anyway, so Lord Rama returned to his kingdom, and then as a good king, he would go out incognito to see what the citizens were thinking or feeling. And one night he went out and he heard one of his subjects chastising his wife who'd been unfaithful. She'd been with another man. And he was saying, well, I'm not like Lord Rama. I'm not going to accept your behavior. I'm not going to be a henpecked husband like Lord Rama. And so Lord Rama, on hearing this, realized that, that his duty to the kingdom was more important than his duty to his beloved wife Sita. So then he sent her to the ashram of Valmiki, where she had two sons, Rama's sons. So this is another example of sacrifice for fulfilling his duty. He owed a duty to his subjects as king to set the example. Lord Rama sets the ideal example in his life. So Lord Rama, he served his subjects, he served his demigods, the demigods. And so service, as part of the intrinsic nature of the soul, it's our eternal dharma, our Sanatan dharma, is rendering service. And this service is best directed towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Krishna. So just some additional points from the life of Lord Ramachandra before I finish here. So Lord Rama, he's banished to the forest. And this is, very much like our banishment to this material world. So Lord Rama's banished to the forest, and we're banished to this material world. And so everything happens for a reason. So we're in this world, and we need to see this, our experience here is a learning experience. Everything happens for a reason. We're here for reasons, and there's a purpose to it, and we need to make advancement in our spiritual life and learn the lessons of life, and reestablish our loving relationship with the Supreme Person. So another thing we can learn is that Lord Rama, he never gave up. He never gave up trying to rescue Sita. I had to go through, incredible hardships. First of all, he didn't even know where she was. So first of all, he had to establish where was she. Then he didn't actually need any allies. And of course, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can do what he wishes. But in his pastimes, he built up armies of allies. Then when he gets to the ocean, between the Indian Ocean, between Cape Comorin and Sri Lanka, then he needs to build a bridge. So of course he's able to, the ocean gives passage and has these rocks float, and he builds a bridge. But anyway, he had to go through all kinds of hardships and difficulties to rescue Sita, but he never gave up, and this took many years. And we can learn humility and modesty. So Lord Ramachandra had great powers and skills, but he always acted very humbly. And we can learn calmness and accepting of the situation, and focusing on what to do about it, rather than grieving and lamenting. So we can, appreciating that this world is made up of happiness and distress, that suffering has its purpose. So when on the death of Dasharatha, Vashistha, a great saintly person, was speaking to Bharata after Dasharatha's funeral, he says, life and death, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, these dualities cannot be avoided. Learn to accept what you cannot change and give up sorrow. So this is, an important life lesson for all of us, that, this world is a world of duality, but it can't be avoided. So we need to accept the situation, give up sorrow, and move forward. Focus on what we're going to do about it. Don't dwell on the miseries and don't dwell on the problems. Focus instead on what to do about it. Lord Ramachandra, he obeyed and respected elders, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, text 14. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother. So we can see in the example of Lord Ramachandra, he immediately accepted the orders of his superiors. He didn't fight or argue or disrespect. He accepted it. And another couple of lessons, Lord Ramachandra, he gave Vibhishan, who was the brother of Ravana. He left Sri Lanka and came to where Lord Rama's armies were, and he wanted to help Rama. And many of the people with Rama didn't trust him and said he should be, not accepted. And but Lord Rama gave him a chance. Accepted him. And so we should be accepting of people, give people a chance. And Lord Rama is the ideal example of monogamy, monogamy in marriage. So in Bhagavatam it says 9.10.54, Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other woman, other women. So Lord Ramachandra was the example of pure, monogamy and all the benefits that monogamy has. So anyway, so that's the end of my little talk. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. 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 Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.